good morning or good afternoon. So we're going to go ahead and start our first drawing, and there's a couple ways you can start this. First of all, we could go into New and start with our template if it's right here. If it's not, then you basically want to be in here. Go to Inventor Files, and then your template should be right in there. Let me bring my window down to size, bring my picture up. Now what I want to do is I want to have my picture, which is in Schoology. So you can kind of have Schoology off in a window off to the side. And I want to have this with me while I'm doing this drawing, or you can have it on your Mac, or you can have the video playing on your Mac. So I've got my template in here. So I'm going to start this, our first drawing. So we got this in here. It looks just like our blank workspace. We're in 3 dimensions. We're going to hit 2D. It's going to bring up these planes right here. Okay. Now if you look at the way this isometric is, we want it facing out this way. So we're going to hit our XY plane, and bam, we're in 2 dimensions. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, so I'm rolling my ball away from me, my red roller ball. Okay. Now I've got a 9-inch by 4-inch rectangle. We could draw this with the rectangle tool, but we're going to use the line tool. So I'm going to click on the line. Again, watch when I get on the origin here, it turns green. I want to start at the origin. I want to go out here 9 inches. Don't quite have enough here, so that's close enough. And again, this is one of the things with this. I want to make sure I'm at 90 degrees, 3.25. Back here horizontal. And then back down to close this up. Make sure it turns green. You close that up. So I'm going to drag this down here so I'm a little bit, got a better work surface. Now, I could have, if I had enough on here, I could have drawn it 9 by 4, but I want to check this with dimension anyway, so I'm going to escape out, hit your escape key top left, or you can right click and get out of that. So I'm going to dimension this. You're going to see this, a cool thing about this is the dimensions drive this, so it's 7.1377. Type in 9 and check. Still in my dimension mode here, so I'm going to click on this line when it turns red, drag this out, click, and I'm going to make that 4. So I now have a 9-inch by 4-inch rectangle. So there's my first thing. Now, I'm going to put these 6 shapes in here. It's going to teach you how to learn some of the tools. However, don't worry about where they're placed. Get them more or less where they're on there, but the dimensions I want to be exact on here. So I'm going to go to my circle. I'll just work across the top from left to right. I'll place my circle right here. I'm going to drag it out. Now, see the blue blocks there? It says it's 1.4142 inches in diameter. My drawing over here says it's 1 inch in diameter. So I got a couple options. I can, while it's in blue, just type in 1 because it's highlighted, or I can dimension afterwards. I'm going to type 1, mash enter, and I have a 1-inch diameter circle. Okay, so I'm going to escape, and see how I've got my little drag arrows there by my cursor? I'm going to drag this thing right out to here. Okay, and I'll do one other thing while I'm on here. I'm going to drag this down here. Because what I don't want to have is I didn't want to have this crossing this. I'm also going to drag my 4 over here. So I got that going right there. Okay, and then click off. All right, now I want to make my arc here. If you notice, it's got a radius of 1.5 and it's offset by 0.5. So I'm going to show you a couple tools here. First of all, the arc. If you hover on this 3-point arc and it shows you, you're going to point on the left hand side. Come on back here. So you get a short description, and then you hold this up, and it's going to show you. So 1 is your first click to start it, 2 is where you end it, and 3 is the size of the arc. But we have a specific radius. So we're going to come down here and click on this to open it up. And this one, if you notice, uses a center point. If I hold there, again, first click is the center point, then I'm going to get my left side, and then my right side. And they talk about this a little bit. And if you hit F1 down at the bottom of that box, it will actually show you a video and more in-depth written instructions. So I'm going to click this. I'm going to put my radius about right here. I can move this afterwards. Okay. Watch the blue box. You notice it's at 1.5026. I'm going to write 1.5 in 1.5. Okay. And then I'm going to click. And I'm going to start about here. I'm going to go over to about here. And that's where that's going to end. I'm going to drag that because that did not go the way I wanted it to go. And then it's going to stay the 1.5 radius. I've typed that in. Now it's about the size that I want it. Let me get there so I got a horizontal line on it. Okay? So I've got that. So even if you mess up, you just kind of click off it a little bit, select it, and then grab the ends and you can drag it to where you want. So now I want to do an offset, which is this horseshoe shaped thing right here. Just hover on it. It tells you about it. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to select this. I'm going to drag in, see 0.4208. Click there. That's close enough. And again, with Inventor, close enough is good. Just basically draw what you want. You can dimension it later. So we want to go ahead and dimension this. So click on this one, click on this one, and there's my 0.5. So that's 0.4208. Now I can click there, 0.5. So I can draw it to the exact dimensions I want. I can draw it and put the dimensions in as I'm drawing it, or I can just go ahead and draw it, and then I can change the dimensions after the fact. Now I want to close that up, so let me hit my line tool. And again, it's yellow out here, so watch when it hits you and see how it turns green. It turns green, so we got that one. Then we want another one here and here. And then I can hit escape in the top left, or I can right click. I can right click and hit cancel, so I'm done, or hit OK because I'm done. All right. OK will let you do more lines. Escape means you're done with that tool for now. Now we want to do the rectangle box. And I'm going to come back and dimension this a little bit more in a second. So rectangle. And this is a 2-point rectangle. Again, you can hover on that. There's different ways of drawing a rectangle. So I'm going to start right here, 2 inch by 1 inch. Looking at my dimension there, look at that, 2 inch by 1 inch. Okay. Now if I want to be real careful, my dimension. And this way they'll show up on my drawing as well. So there's 2 inches. Because sometimes instead of 1 inch, it might be 1.9995 and it looks like 1. This way we're sure it's exactly 1 inch. There we go. Okay. One thing I missed here, kind of on purpose, is this radius of 1.5. So I'm in dimensioning mode here. And if you look, it's 1.5818, isn't it? So now I can change this to 1.5. So I thought that was 1.5. That was not a teachable moment. I thought that, but see, I just double checked it by dimensioning it. And now I've got it the correct dimension. And again, use this as a dimensioning guide. So they do a pretty good job on here. We're not being real picky right now. All right, now we want to do the slot. So let's go in here. You look at your circle, click that. Different ways of doing circles and an ellipse. That is not a slot. Go to your rectangle tool. Now keep in mind, this is going to change. Whatever you did last is going to show up there, and you can see your slots, curved slots, and polygons for our last one. So we're going to do a slot, but look at how this is dimensioned. I have 1.5 inches on center and a radius of 0.5. So if I look here, this does center to center and then a radius. So I want to choose this one. So we come down here, and there's 1.5-ish, okay? And then I want to come out here to 1 inch in diameter, which would be a radius of a radius of 0.5. I'm going to escape out. I prefer that to use the mouse, and then I'm going to dimension this to the size I want because I know it's not. So I'm going to click here, see how that line turns red? Come up, click 1.5. There you go. And then I want to do the same thing to the radius. And I can just drag this wherever I want it to. So I want it about right here. And that's 0.5099 something, and I just want 0.5. It is going to dimension a circle as a diameter. It's going to dimension an arc as a radius. Okay, now I want to do this. We're going to have another little exercise on our offset. So I'm going to draw an L shape, 2 lines. Okay, now I want you to escape out of that. I want you to look at something. See, this is 1 inch, plus it's got a 1/4 of an inch radius. That's not 0.13, it's 0.125. And that's 1 inch, and if you notice, it doesn't go to the end of the object, it goes to the end of the straight. So I'm going to make each of these 1.25, or I can fillet them first. I'm going to fillet them first. So come up here, and what that is that's just kind of a rounded sort of thing. So here's my fillet tool. I have a full screen, it's a little bit bigger. So 0.125, click here, and it automatically puts that in, and there's my radius. So I'm going to escape off that. Okay, and I'm going to drag this up so it's a little bit. But again, this is why I had you when we were doing our tolerances give me 4 decimals. If you just did 2, you would see 0.13 here. Okay, now I'm going to dimension this part here, and that's going to be 1 inch. And then I'm going to dimension this one. And that's going to be 1 inch. And again, if it's not exactly like what's on the picture, that's fine in terms of placement. And they were able to fit this here. I drag this down here because it looks a little bit better. But I definitely want the dimensions correct. And now I'm going to do an offset. So again, escape out because my dimensions are still highlighted here. So escape. And I'm going to hit my offset. And I'm going to choose this figure. And I'm going to come out here. And again, if you notice the distance between them is 0.25. I'm going to click this and dimension that here real quick. Okay. Come up here, hit dimension. Here. Here. And 0.25. So I could have done it while I was drawing it, but honestly sometimes it's easier just to draw it and dimension it later. And then let's close that off with a couple of lines. Now, this is a little on the small side. Escape out. So what if we want to make this a little bigger? And then I can just work on one area at a time. So now it's a little bit easier to see. So let's go to our polygon. So again, remember that was with our slot, rectangle, whatever we've worked with, that's what's going to show there. So this says 6 sides, we want 5. It's a pentagon. Done. Okay? Sorry, hit that again. So we got 5. We don't have to change anything there. We don't have to hit done. So we're going to come out here. I want to center it about right here. Click, and then drag. Okay? So now I have a pentagon. Click again, and I'm done. All right, hit escape. All right, now, one of the things kind of wonky here is this thing's sort of crooked, and you could try and make it perfectly straight, but it might not be perfectly straight. We have a tool. We're going to constrain this so this is horizontal. So this tool right here, if you hover a little bit, horizontal constraint. So I'm going to go ahead and click that so it's highlighted. Click on that feature. Boom. Made it vertical for me. Escape off. Now if I want to move this, I want to grab the center. And I can drag this thing down. Okay? Sometimes it does weird things like creating a ghost image out here. Don't let that freak you out. Now I need to dimension this on a face 1 inch. So I'm going to go up to the dimensions. So watch this part kind of closely. Students really struggle with this. So this is at an angle. This one will come out 1 inch, but I don't want you to do that one. I want you to do this one because you're going to learn something. So click on it, and you pull out your dimensions. Look at, oh, it's too short. Well, first of all, that's the vertical distance is 0.9. So even if you make it 1, it's wrong. Okay, well, what if I go this way? Okay, well, your horizontal distance is 0.308. If you remember your triangles from math, that's your leg that's horizontal. That's your leg that's vertical. We want the hypotenuse to be 1 inch. So as long as we've got this out here, while you have it there, right-click. And then down here, see where it says aligned? That's going to be aligned. Now we got that, 0.9967, close to 1. And now we're going to make it 1. Check that. And at this point, I think we got just about everything in here. So we'll roll out just a little bit. We got all of our dimensions in here. We got all of our figures on here. So let's go ahead and finish our sketch. Okay. Got a little big on us, so let's roll it out to get it so we can see it pretty well. Okay. Another tool you can use is this pan tool. Bring this out here. So you click and hold on zoom, left click and hold, move it up and move it down to get the size you want, and then go to pan, and then you drag it to where you want. So now I have this right here. It's in 2 dimensions, and then this right here, when I want it to go away, click the X. So I'm in my home screen right here. Okay. Now, let's go to extrude and give this thing some thickness. While we're doing that real quick, on the top, see it's 2 dimension. From the right, 2 dimension. But we go back here, we're in 3 dimensions, even though it's a flat object. So we're going to hit extrude. Okay. And see when I get over here, it selects that plane. If I get here, I select that. Well, again, if you look at your isometric over here, it's got holes in it. So I want to extrude this. I just click on that surface. It says it's 1 inch thick. But if you look at your drawing, it's 0.25. So let's change this. And again, if you were paying attention, there was actually a black dimension box on there, kind of like our blue ones. I could have done this on the drawing as well. Now, again here, let me move this out of the way. Really didn't want to do that, but okay. I could go back from the face. I could split it between, so it's going to be 1/8 of an inch on either side, because 0.25 is a quarter. I could do it asymmetric, so it's a quarter to the front and 1/8 to the back. But I actually just want to go back from that. So I'm going to click OK. All right, so here's my object. So when you're doing this one right here, we are going to save, and this is the first time we've saved, so we're going to keep going on that. So let's go to File and Save As. Okay, so I'm going to my P. Martin Inventor files. If it's not there, I would go to Desktop. In fact, now it's not there anymore, so I would go to Desktop, and then it's going to give me my desktop. And you can also change the way it looks here. And Patrick P. Martin Inventor files. Okay, and this is going to be part 1-1. So part 1-1, and then I want your initials here. So mine are PEM. You put your initials right there, so we know that's you. It's in your folder. Okay, and save. All right, so let's go ahead and close this out. You can see it did save a copy here. Again, we don't want to launch that. Let me close this. And then go up in here. Part 1-1 PEM. There we go. Okay. Now if I wanted to work on this some more, I just go in here, double click, and it will launch Inventor for me if I want, and boom, it's right there, so I could actually do more work on this if we wanted to. That's going to wrap us up for this video. If you have any questions, raise your hand. I'll come around and help you, but do try and use the videos as much as you can. Use the help buttons within Inventor, and feel free to use your neighbors. Just watch your mask and your social distancing. All right. So good luck. Need help? Raise your hand.